Hi, y'all. I am in a hallway of our local high school, one of the local high schools, waiting for my daughter who is in swim practice. And I was thinking about something that is not quite common knowledge yet that you definitely need to know if you are a parent or caregiver or involved in young people's lives these days. It is something that we've made a lot of progress on in our country, but have a very long way to go. And that is protecting kids when they are in activities, protecting them from things like sexual assault. And something that I love about our swim team is that they are part of the Safe Sport certification. And I looked it up. It looks like most Olympic sports now have this. So it's going to be really common. You just might not have heard of it, but it is a system of rules to help protect kids, which is fantastic, obviously. Um, why do we need this? Well, hopefully you know the history, and that is that we have a very long history in our country of not protecting children. Um, like I said, it's getting better, which is great, but there's certain organizations that have had a very storied past and not done a great job putting kids' safety first. I was a gymnast growing up. You might remember a couple of major scandals with gymnastics where not only did the scandal happen, but the organization of USA Gymnastics did not do what they could to protect the children, mostly young girls in this case. And it made the problem so much worse because it allowed the perpetrators to continue the abuse for way longer and abuse way more girls than was necessary. When you compare that, how that organization behaved, how certain churches have behaved about similar stories about clergy with something like how Boy Scouts reacted, I feel like Boy Scouts actually had the scandal, but then got it right afterward. My husband wanted to sign our son up for Scouts, and I said, and this was a few years back, and I didn't know if they had made any progress in this realm. And I said, he can do Scouts, but only if they've changed their policies, if they have policies basically that will protect children. And it turns out they really have. They have all sorts of policies in place, and so now they allow both boys and girls. So it's just Scouts America, I think. Unfortunately, the acronym for that is SA, which is also the acronym for sexual abuse. They rebranded slightly wrong there, but despite that, they have policies in place that protect kids now. And so they have rules about what adults have to be present and, not being alone with kids, things like that. What I am thankful now is that we are able to start talking about these things, and just having people be aware of it will really help protect a lot of kids. But I also want to encourage you that when you are signing your kids up for an activity, that you ask about this stuff. Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah, it's not something that any of us want to think about, but it's super necessary, and just the act of asking can be protective for the children involved in that activity. I was thinking about this tonight because I'm at the swim team practice here, and when our daughter started, this was a new team, and when they started this organization, they immediately put out information letting us know what their practices were in regards to safety for the kids. And so because it is a safe sport, they got training on what that means, and they have really strict rules around obviously things like touching the swimmers by the coaches, what it looks like even if a coach gets in the water with the swimmers, just detailing out exactly what things need to look like to keep kids safe. I am part of a ski organization here for cross-country skiing here in Minneapolis. It's also got rules about, like, if a skier needs to go to the bathroom, you're not going to obviously go with them alone. I say obviously, again, not everybody knows this stuff yet. And I've noticed that our kids' camps also have rules, and they now will actually lay it out in the handbook when they go to like an overnight camp or a day camp, saying, if a counselor has to take a child to the bathroom, they're going to take at least one other child with them. It's never going to be one-on-ones. So, and that protects the adults as well as the children. One thing that I really noticed early on with our swim team was when a coach needed to clear the girls' locker room or the women's locker room, girls/women's locker room for the evening, because the lifeguard wanted to go home, the coaches wanted to go home, the girls were taking too long. But the male coach would not even open the door and yell in themselves to tell the girls to hurry up. They came over to the stands and asked for one of the female parents to go over and not even go in, but to open the door and just say, come on, girls, hurry up. And I just thought that was such a good example of how these rules can be put into place and how strictly they were respecting these rules. Here comes my swimmer. Just a second, babe. So these policy, stand that side of the camera, digital anonymity. These policies work in two ways. One, they prevent actual situations from occurring, but they also let abusers know that your organization or your sport is aware and actively engaged in preventing sexual assault, which helps discourage them from trying to target those kids in the first place. If you are interested in more information on this, I would encourage you to look at websites or follow on social media things like the Mama Bear Effect and Parenting Safe Children. You can also just directly Google up what safe sport is and what that looks like. And don't be shy, even though it's awkward, in asking what policies are in place. I always, when our kids start a new activity, a new school with a new teacher, anything, I always make sure that they know that we have body safety rules in our house. I can do another video on that if you want, but also ask what their policies are, because they should have things in place, because people who aren't abusers are all going to be on the same side of this, and that is that they want to prevent it. All right, you've got this.